Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a topic that's changing the way we get our news.
Oh, yeah.
Algorithms.
Yeah.
It feels like they're everywhere these days. You know those lines of code that seem to be,
Running everything.
yeah, running everything.
Yeah.
So we've got this super interesting academic article called Algorithms, Automation, and News.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to really dig deep and unpack it
Awesome.
and figure out exactly how all this tech is reshaping journalism.
Hmm.
I mean, are robots writing the news now? Are we all going to be stuck in these echo chambers?
Right?
Big questions. Let's find out.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to see just how much algorithms have become a part of pretty much every single stage of the news process.
Really?
From finding the stories to writing them, and even to deciding what you and I see when we open up our phones or our computers. The article calls this the quantitative turn in journalism.
Hmm.
And I think that's a great way to describe how much data is now a driving force.
So when we talk about this quantitative turn,
Yeah.
what does that actually mean for the average person reading the news? I mean, is it all just like crunching numbers now?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
I mean, yes, data analysis is definitely a bigger part of the picture, but it's more about how algorithms are actually used as tools.
Okay.
Sometimes they're there to help journalists actually do their jobs more efficiently.
Uh-huh.
Like there are these things called reporting algorithms
Hmm.
that can go through and sift through like mountains of data to find patterns
Oh.
and even unearth potential leads for stories.
So it's like having
He says.
a super-powered research assistant.
Exactly.
Wow. Very much so.
That makes sense. I do have to wonder about the downsides. Like, are we sacrificing quality for quantity?
Oh, for sure. That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And the article does bring up some interesting ethical questions.
Yeah. About, are there potential biases built into these algorithms? How transparent are these systems really? And could they be misused? It's not just about the tech itself, but about how it's developed and implemented.
You know, when I was reading about all of this, I came across something that really surprised me.
Oh, yeah?
News chatbots.
Huh.
Apparently, even public service broadcasters like BBC and ABC are using bots to deliver the news.
Wow.
Is this the future of how we get information?
Well, it's definitely a growing trend. And what's really interesting is that these organizations are trying to connect with audiences,
Yeah.
particularly younger generations,
Huh.
where they already are,
Yeah.
on platforms like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp.
Sure.
And these chatbots offer a way to deliver news in a more personalized and interactive way.
It's a pretty clever idea, but it also makes me think about data privacy.
Mm.
If we're relying on these big tech companies to get our news, are we giving up too much control?
You've hit on a key point there. The article really highlights this potential conflict between public service information being delivered through private platforms like Facebook.
Yeah.
And then it raises the questions of who owns that data? How is it being used? These are questions we need to be asking. And, beyond even the data privacy, there's this question of trust.
Sure.
Will people really trust a bot to give them unbiased news?
That's a good question. So we've got algorithms finding news, they're writing news, and now they're delivering it through chatbots. It's all very personalized, but is that actually a good thing? This whole idea of filter bubbles and echo chambers really makes me wonder if we're all just getting trapped in our own little worlds, only seeing what we already agree with.
That's a huge concern. This is where the difference between platform personalization and publisher personalization really comes in.
Okay.
Like Facebook versus the New York Times.
Right. So is it less worrisome if a news outlet is the one tailoring my experience?
Well, it's not necessarily less worrisome,
Okay.
but it comes with different motivations.
Got it.
On platforms like Facebook, the algorithm is often just trying to keep you engaged,
Right.
feeding you more of what you've already liked or interacted with.
Right.
But news organizations, they often use personalization to try and cultivate an interest in quality journalism, to expose people to a wider range of topics and perspectives, hoping to broaden your horizons.
So it's not just about keeping you clicking.
No, not necessarily.
So are they trying to like avoid those echo chambers?
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between giving people what they want, what they might actually need,
Even if they don't know they need it.
even if they don't know it.
Wow.
Yeah, the idea is to cultivate a taste for good journalism.
I like that.
Of course, there's still a lot of debate about how effective that approach really is and how it will all play out in the long run.
Well, this brings up a really big question. What does all of this mean for democracy? if we're all getting these personalized news feeds, how can we have an informed public debate? Is there even a shared reality anymore?
That's where it gets really interesting to understand the impact of news recommenders,
Okay.
like the algorithms that personalize our feeds.
Uh-huh.
The article talks about 3 democratic models.
Hmm.
Each model emphasizes different values, and understanding those values helps us see how these algorithms shape our understanding of the world.
Let's hear about these models.
Okay.
Let's explore them.
So the first one is the liberal model. Think individual freedom and access to information.
Okay.
It's all about empowering people to choose what they want to see and read.
Got it.
Then there's the participatory model, which emphasizes civic engagement
Uh-huh.
and creating a shared public sphere. It's about using algorithms to encourage discussion and participation in public life.
Interesting.
And lastly, there's the deliberative model.
Okay.
This one focuses on reasoned debate and exposure to a diversity of viewpoints.
So different algorithms, different values,
Yeah.
different impacts on how we engage with news and ultimately on democracy itself.
Mm.
It seems like a lot hinges on who is designing these systems and what your goals are.
Absolutely. Algorithms aren't neutral. They reflect the values and priorities of the people and institutions that create and use them.
Yeah.
And it's critical to be aware of those values because they shape the news we consume and the conversations we have as a society.
Totally. You know, all this talk about algorithms makes me wonder.
Yeah.
Are they just for, like, churning out the daily news, or can they actually do more?
Right.
Could AI be used for watchdog journalism?
Yeah.
You know, the kind that really holds powerful people accountable
Uh-huh.
and uncovers the truth?
That's a great question, and it's one that researcher Stray actually looked into. There's definitely potential there. But it's not as simple as just setting loose, a bunch of robot reporters.
What are the roadblocks?
Well, one of the biggest is data access.
Okay.
Investigative journalism relies so much on getting the right information, and powerful interests don't always make that easy. It's not easy to code an algorithm to outsmart, a government agency or a multinational corporation that's trying to keep their secrets hidden.
Right. And beyond even getting the data, I imagine it's pretty hard to teach an algorithm how to sniff out corruption.
Exactly.
Wrongdoing.
Stray's research points to this difficulty of coding for something as complex as news values.
News values, okay.
You know what makes a story newsworthy? What's evidence of wrongdoing? These are all judgments that journalists make based on their experience, the context, and even sometimes their gut instinct.
So it sounds like AI might be good at, crunching numbers,
Yeah.
spotting patterns, but it struggles with that messier side of investigative journalism.
You're right. Stray calls it the messy reality of investigative work, something that algorithms, at least in their current form, have a hard time navigating.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Algorithms are like bloodhounds.
Okay.
Great at following a scent, but you still need that human handler to point them in the right direction and make sense of what they find.
So no robot Woodward and Bernstein anytime soon.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
While there are challenges, Stray does see some really promising uses for AI in investigative journalism.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For instance, AI can be super helpful when you're analyzing massive document dumps.
Oh, right.
Think like the Panama Papers.
Gotcha.
It would take human investigators ages to sort through all that information. But an AI can do it much faster and potentially uncover hidden connections and patterns.
So AI might not win a Pulitzer on its own, but it could be a powerful tool for human investigators.
Absolutely. It's about finding the right balance, using the strengths of both to get the job done.
All of these potential uses for algorithms have got me thinking.
Yeah.
What does this mean for human journalists?
Right.
Are we all headed for the unemployment line?
That's the question a lot of people are asking, and it's something that researchers Milosavljevic and Bo Beach really dug into. What they found is that journalists are still absolutely essential.
Okay, good.
But their roles and even the definition of professional journalism are changing.
Interesting.
It's not humans versus machines.
Right.
It's humans and machines working together.
So more of a collaboration.
Exactly. The future of journalism is likely to be a hybrid one, where human skills and machine capabilities complement each other. Journalists are going to have to adapt, learn how to work with these new tools, and leverage their unique strengths.
Speaking of new tools,
Yeah.
there's another concept from the article that really stood out to me.
What's that?
Mechanical objectivity.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
I know it's a fascinating concept that gets to the heart of how technology has always promised this idea of a more objective representation of reality.
Okay, I can see how that applies to algorithms.
Yeah.
And their supposed neutrality. But you said technology has always promised this.
Right.
Can you give me an example?
Think about the early days of photography and photojournalism,
Okay.
when photography first emerged.
Okay.
People were amazed by its ability to capture what seemed like a true and unbiased view of the world. The camera, they said, doesn't lie.
Right.
The camera never lies.
We've all heard that.
But of course, we know even photographs can be manipulated and framed and edited to tell a particular story. The photographer's choices, conscious or unconscious, shape the image we see.
So it's the same with algorithms.
Yeah.
Just because they're based on, math
Right.
and code doesn't mean they're automatically free from bias.
Exactly. We have to remember that algorithms are created by humans. And those humans have their own biases and values and agendas, whether they realize it or not. So we have to ask, who's programming these systems? What data are they using to train them? These are the questions that help us understand the potential biases that are baked into these seemingly objective tools.
So we can't just blindly trust the algorithm. We need to be critical consumers of algorithmic news, just like we are with any other form of media.
For sure. And this leads us to another interesting concept that's reshaping how we think about news.
Okay.
Structured journalism.
Structured journalism. To be honest, that sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah.
What exactly is it?
So researcher Caswell argues that we can actually break news down into smaller semantic units.
Okay.
Think who, what, when, where, and why. The basic building blocks of a news story.
Okay, I get it. So like deconstructing a news article into its core parts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is that algorithms can then take these units and recombine them in all sorts of ways
Wow.
to create different types of news products tailored for different audiences and platforms.
So like imagine an algorithm that takes a news story about, let's say, a political debate and automatically generates different versions.
Yeah.
You could have a really short summary
Yep.
for busy readers, a deeper dive for policy wonks, and even like a social media friendly version for Twitter.
Exactly. That's the power of structured journalism. It allows for tons of flexibility and customization in how news is presented and consumed.
That is mind-blowing. But what does all this mean for the way journalists actually work?
Right.
I mean, would they need to become coders?
It's definitely a shift in mindset. Instead of just writing for human readers, journalists might have to think about writing for machines as well. They'll have to structure their stories in a way that algorithms can understand.
Wow, that is a big change. It sounds like structured journalism could really shake things up.
It has the potential. Like any technological advancement, it comes with both opportunities and challenges.
So with all of these changes happening,
Yeah.
what does it mean for the average person? Someone just trying to keep up with the news in this increasingly algorithmic age?
It's a great question.
What are the key takeaways?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that algorithms are changing journalism in really profound and complex ways. And these changes come with some exciting possibilities and some serious concerns. On the one hand, algorithms offer a lot of potential for efficiency, for personalization, and even for strengthening democracy.
Right.
By reaching new audiences and encouraging engagement,
Yeah.
they can help us connect with information in really innovative ways.
But like we've been talking about, there's another side to all of this.
Exactly. We can't forget about the potential downsides. We need to be aware of the challenges, like algorithmic bias, privacy concerns, and the possibility that these technologies could be used to erode trust in journalism and even harm democracy.
So it sounds like navigating this new landscape requires a lot of balance.
It does. It requires us to be really critical thinkers, both as journalists and as news consumers. We need to be aware of the forces that are shaping the news we read and watch, and we need to be active participants in shaping the future of journalism.
So no easy answers,
Right.
but definitely a lot to think about.
For sure.
What stands out to you from all of this? What's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away?
Yeah, for me, it's that even though algorithms are based on logic and data, they're not inherently neutral.
Right, yeah.
Like we were saying with mechanical objectivity, there are always choices being made,
Yeah.
whether it's in how the algorithm is designed or the data that's used to train it.
That's so important to remember. It all goes back to who's controlling these really powerful tools and what their motivations are. Are they trying to, make a profit increase engagement? Are they going for pure objectivity? It's something we have to constantly be thinking about as algorithms get even more sophisticated and become even more integrated into every part of our lives.
Yeah, it feels like a huge responsibility, almost overwhelming. I mean, what can we as individuals actually do to make sure that algorithms are being used to serve the public good and to strengthen our democracy?
It's a tough question, isn't it? I think it all starts with awareness.
The more we understand about how algorithms actually work, the better we'll be at spotting, potential biases or manipulation.
Yeah.
It's like learning to read the fine print before you click agree on anything.
So we need to be more informed consumers of news in this algorithmic age.
Right.
What else can we do?
We can demand more transparency
Okay.
from the companies and organizations that are developing and using these systems. We can ask questions like, how are these algorithms being used? What data are they being trained on? And what steps are being taken to make sure bias is being addressed? We can also support news organizations and platforms that are committed to using algorithms ethically and responsibly.
So it sounds like we can't just be passive consumers.
No.
We need to be active participants. We can't just assume that technology is automatically going to create a better, more informed world.
Right.
We have to actually help shape that future.
Absolutely. And one of the most important things we can do is just talk about it. Have conversations with our friends, family, colleagues about all of these issues. The more we're discussing the impact of algorithms, the more likely we are to come up with solutions that will benefit everybody.
Like you said earlier, it's not about humans versus machines. It's about figuring out how to work together,
Right.
finding that balance.
Yeah.
So we can take advantage of the power of these new tools while still protecting, the values that are essential to a healthy democracy.
Exactly. It's a challenge, but it's also a really incredible opportunity to shape the future of news and information in a way that truly benefits the public.
It's definitely a lot to think about. Before we go, I always like to leave our listeners with something to mull over. So here it is. As algorithms get more and more advanced, what role do you want to play in shaping the future of news in this increasingly algorithmic age? It's something for all of us to consider. We hope this deep dive has given you some new insights and perspectives to think about. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.